Emma Calloway, late 20s, freelance book restorer and part-time archivist. She inherits her late uncle's Victorian house in Silverton and finds an old leather-bound diary hidden inside a wall during renovations. The entries aren't written in her uncle's hand, and some of them are dated after his death. Ready? Let's begin. Title: The Cursed Diary of Silverton, Unraveling a Town's Hidden Horrors. The house on Grove Street didn't creak. It groaned. Emma noticed it the first night she stayed there. A long, drawn-out exhale of the floorboards around 3 a.m., like the place was trying to speak through its joints. Her uncle, Thomas Calloway, had lived there alone for the last 20 years before dying suddenly of a stroke. At least, that's what the town claimed. She hadn't been close to him. No one really was. The man had gone from professor to recluse in the span of a year, withdrawn completely, stopped returning calls. He had no wife, no kids, just the house, and now it was hers. Emma had come to Silverton planning to renovate and resell. Maybe photograph a few old letters for her blog. Nothing deeper. That changed on the third day when she found the diary. It was hidden inside a wall cavity behind a bookcase. The contractor thought it was water damage. They opened it up, found perfectly dry plaster, and then the hollow thud of something wedged between the studs. A single leather-bound book, no title, just a small clasp, rusted shut. She pried it open later that night. Inside were handwritten pages, neat, slanted, dated entries, the earliest from 1891. She flipped through. The ink darkened over time. Words became more urgent. The writing shifted tone, not just old-fashioned but disturbed. She stopped when she saw an entry dated March 17th, 2023, 2 weeks ago, in the same hand. The entry was short. The girl is in the house now. She's touched the book. The house remembers. Emma slammed the diary shut. She hadn't spoken to anyone about the book. No one knew she found it. She looked at the door. Locked. She checked the windows. Closed. Then came the sound. A soft dragging sound from upstairs, like someone walking barefoot, very slowly, across the hallway above. She was alone. Or she had been. Emma didn't move for a full minute. The sound above stopped. Not with a creak, but a click, like a door closing. Soft, purposeful. She grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and crept up the stairs. Each step felt wrong. Not noisy, but too silent, like the house was holding its breath with her. The hallway was empty. She checked every room. Nothing. No sign anyone had been there. But the last door, her uncle's study, was cracked open. She was sure she had left it closed. Inside, the room was untouched. Books in perfect rows. A dead plant on the windowsill. A globe frozen mid-spin. But on the desk, laid flat in the center, was the diary. She hadn't brought it up there, and it was open. The new page wasn't dated, but the handwriting had changed. More jagged. Pressure heavy on the strokes. She hears it now, sooner than the last. The house wants her faster. Emma stepped back. The room felt smaller suddenly. She snatched the diary and left the study, slamming the door behind her. The lock clicked on its own. Back downstairs, Emma sat at the kitchen table, diary closed, hands shaking. She Googled Silverton plus curse and Calloway house deaths and found diary warning. Nothing came up except a 1997 fire in the town's records building. Total loss of historical archives. Convenient. She called the contractor who helped open the wall. He didn't answer. 5 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She picked up static. Then, her voice, repeating back something she said earlier. Found a book, might be nothing. Then silence. At 3:08 a.m., she couldn't sleep, so she opened the diary again. Not to read it, to burn it. She grabbed a match and stepped into the backyard. Windless night, dead grass. The sky hung low and colorless. She struck the match. The flame touched the page and went out. She tried again and again. The book refused to burn. Then, without warning, the page turned on its own. New entry. Fire doesn't work. That's how she tried. The one before. You'll try the knife next. That won't work either. Her name was now written at the bottom of the page, in ink that wasn't there yesterday. Emma. Emma didn't sleep. She sat in the kitchen with the diary closed, her hand gripping a steak knife more for sanity than protection. The room pulsed with silence. No creaks, no wind. Just her breath and the heavy hum in her ears. The kind that usually came right before a panic attack. But this wasn't panic. This was presence. By morning, she drove into town. The library looked like it hadn't updated its shelves since 1989. The librarian, a quiet man with pale eyes and a name tag that just said Martin, barely acknowledged her until she mentioned the Calloway house. Then he looked up. Real slow. You're staying there? Just cleaning it out, she lied. Martin stared for a beat, then walked into the back room. He returned with a thin folder. Local history, yellowed paper, a few newspaper clippings. He pointed to one. 4 dead in Silverton home. Strange writing found on walls, published March 1938, below the headline. A photo of the very same house she now lived in. Different windows, same porch. Emma's stomach turned. Martin tapped the corner of the article. Each one left a journal, he said quietly. Different years, different names, same handwriting. She blinked. What? He nodded once. The book doesn't belong to your uncle. It belongs to the house. She went home. The book was waiting in the center of her kitchen floor. Though she'd left it locked in her car, the pages were flapping slowly, like it was breathing. She didn't touch it. She called the contractor again. This time, he answered. His voice was wrong, slower, like his tongue wasn't used to the words. Emma, he said. She hesitated. Yeah? You shouldn't have opened the wall. Then the line went dead. That night, another new entry appeared. The names don't change, just the faces. You fit the pattern. You always do. And underneath it, a list of names. Some were crossed out. The last one was hers, still unmarked. Emma didn't remember falling asleep, but she woke on the living room floor, knees tucked, the diary cradled in her arms like something she'd chosen to protect. She dropped it like it burned. The lights were still off. Her phone was dead. The house felt colder. Not freezing, just wrong, like it had been waiting for her to wake up. The diary was open, not where she'd left it. The ink was fresh. The one before you lasted 5 days. You've been here 4. She bolted for the garage. There had to be old files. Tax papers, letters, something her uncle had left behind. She tore open boxes, dust flying everywhere. Then she found it. A locked tin box with a sliding clasp. Inside, a photo of a young woman standing in front of the house. 2006, written on the back. A newspaper clipping with no headline. Just a red circle drawn around a name. Marian Elwood. And a page torn from the diary. Old, creased, water damaged, but unmistakable in handwriting. Marianne won't listen. She thinks she found a way, but the house keeps what it wants. I only watched. I only wrote it down. That's all the diary lets you do. Underneath, a sentence was scratched out so violently it had ripped through the paper. Emma angled it under the light. She could just barely make out. It doesn't need your soul. It needs your memory. She started to pack that night. Clothes, keys, charger, no diary. She didn't care about the house, didn't care about answers. But when she stepped outside, the street wasn't there. Only forest, dense, endless, silent. She turned back toward the house. It was closer than before, pressed against her like it had moved. She opened the front door and stepped in. The diary was on the floor again, pages fluttering toward the end. Then a sound behind her, footsteps upstairs. She whispered aloud, "Marianne?" No voice answered, but a new entry began to write itself. Ink dragging across the paper with no visible hand. That's what she said too. Emma didn't run. There was nowhere to go. The street was gone. Her car keys were missing. The house had turned in on itself. Windows looking out into other rooms, doors closing into different versions of the same hallway. Time bent quietly in the corners. And the diary kept writing. She followed the footsteps upstairs. They stopped outside the guest room, the one her uncle never used. The door was cracked open, light flickering inside. She pushed it wide. The room was empty, except for the mirror, full length, antique. And in the mirror, not her, not exactly, a version of her, same face, same clothes, but the expression, wrong, vacant, and in that reflection, the diary, already open in her hands, and her voice whispering, "It has to be written." She backed away. The mirror version didn't move, but the lights in the room pulsed, dimmed, went out, and in the dark, she saw them, shadows standing in corners, tall, silent, watching, dozens, no faces, just presence. And beneath them, a chorus of soft voices speaking in unison. "You read it. You wrote it. You are part of it now." She tried to tear the diary apart. The pages wouldn't rip. She screamed, threw it into the fireplace. The flames died before they touched the cover. It flipped open one last time, willingly. The final page read, "All stories need a witness. You are ours now. The Calloway house still stands. For sale. Always for sale. The interior is clean, neat, quiet, but visitors report strange things. Voices in empty rooms. A leather-bound book that appears in different places. And dreams of a girl sitting at a desk, writing furiously into a diary that bleeds ink from both ends. No one remembers who she is, but the house does. And it's still writing. You've been listening to Haunted Chronicles. If the pages turn themselves, you were never meant to stop listening. Subscribe for more true-feeling horror stories that linger after the last line. Like, share, and remember, some books don't want to be read. They want to be relived. Haunted Chronicles. We don't just uncover the past. We turn the page where others were too afraid to look.